All right, let's take a look at what the front pages are saying this morning. At this point, you can almost predict what the front pages are saying, particularly if you've been following the stories. So we're going to start right away with the front page of this Nigeria. And this Nigeria leads with something from the National Assembly. Now, when I say National Assembly, a lot of things come to mind. Lawmaking, yes, oversight, the budget and appropriation process. But there's also a controversy that has been trailing the upper house. Yes, the National Assembly is split into the red chamber and the green chamber. Red chamber is the Senate, the green chamber is the House of Reps. The upper house, which is the Senate, lower house, is the House of Representatives. But there's been this controversy that has been trailing the red chamber. And yeah, it's one that concerns Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan and the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the Senate at large. So this is how this Nigeria leads. Senate reconvenes, Natasha stays away. I didn't resume based on legal advice, says Kogi Central Senator. Senate counters House claims. 6 concurrence bills passed last week. Now, the other explainer is talking about a certain allegation that maybe the Senate is ignoring concurrence bills from the House of Reps. But the Senate says no. In fact, 6 of those bills were passed last week. So it's not like we're ignoring you or looking down on you. We're actually working together, says the Senate. But in all, it looks like Senator Natasha Akpoti-Oduaghan's case is what overshadows all of the other things that went down yesterday because of the open week of the National Assembly. So that's a big story for you. We still do not have the certified true copy of the court's judgment or the pronouncement on the case. Has she been asked to resume? Was it an advice or a comment or just an opinion that the court gave? What about the fine that is said to have been handed down to her and the apology? All of that is still unclear. So it's okay and it makes sense that both parties are choosing to stay on this until some proper documentation is gotten. But that's a big story on the front page of this Nigeria.
I'm happy the Senate is also responding to the House on the concurrence of bills, because the House had told them, if you do not respect us, we will not respect you. You're not higher than us. We're just divided by bicameral chambers.
So should we stop that upper house and lower house thing? I was thinking about it on my way to work this morning.
It's actually upper and lower house because there are things the Senate is by constitution meant to do that the House will not do. For instance, confirmation of ministers. It's not in the House of Representatives. That's
so to that extent, one is then higher than the other.
Well, I think it's just a bit of separation of duties in that sense, and also to be able to double check, if you will, and more representation. If we were to do the Senate, we would just have 109 persons in the Senate representing the entirety of 200 million people. So for me, even if there is supposed to be a scrap of any of the chambers, I would prefer the Senate to be scrapped, because the House of Reps is a bit more representative, but the Senate gives a bit of equity. So whether your state is 20 people or 20 million,
you get 3.
You have 3 persons. In terms of balance, that is fair. Equality, I think that's what I was looking for. But when it comes to House of Representatives, it differs as far as
a more even spread, yes, in terms of representation.
It depends
of
on
the
population. People. So the Constitution says, for instance, the Houses of Assembly, the Constitution says it must be, I think, let's say, I think 24 or so, minimum number, and then maximum of 40. So you have Lagos and places like Kano having 40 members in the House. So when it comes to that, but generally, if we feel that we're spending so much on both, but that's not even the issue. The issue is that they should respect themselves.
And I'm glad that matter has been resolved. But as far as the matter of seniority is concerned, members of the parliament themselves would take issue with the nomenclature of upper and lower. I have been reprimanded by an honorable member before for referring to the Senate as upper and the House of Representatives as lower. As far as they are concerned, there is no senior and there is no junior. They're all elected representatives. But that culture...
They earn differently. In fact, on a lot of levels...
Their earnings are more.
Yes.
I'm not done yet.
No one. Sorry, go on.
That culture of seniority and being junior is reflected in the relations between members of the Senate and the lower chamber. Of course, when they relate with themselves, you know that that perception of senior and junior is there. But they take issue with the reference to the Senate being upper and the House of Reps being lower.
I think it's just what it is. They earn more, slightly more, than the members of the House of Reps. They have some responsibilities that the House of Reps doesn't carry out, but there are fundamental issues that they are literally the same. So in fact, it looks like a graduation period. So sometimes people can be in the House of Reps and then say, oh, I made it to the Senate in that sense.
Even in the succession,
yes, the House of
President, Vice, Senate, and House.
This is by no way saying...
the aspiration,
yes, this is by no means downgrading the House of Reps. No, not at all. But the House of Reps Speaker is a number 4 citizens. The Senate President is the number 3. The Senate President is the chairman of the National Assembly.
Exactly.
So can I continue?
We'll go to the Vanguard newspaper with this few points, guys. What does the Vanguard lead with? And it's actually a story from our conversation yesterday on the program.
Yeah.
And
FG battles IMF over report on inflation, poverty, and we have 2 insights there. Worries that such statements can turn the people against the government, and notes body's advisory messages often in conflict with its lending stance. But what do you expect when a lot of your financial stability is dependent on this Bretton Woods institution? So they have a lot of say as far as budgeting is concerned, as far as counsel is concerned, when prices of crude oil go up in the international market, about how the government should respond to these issues. So the interference may not be welcome, but more often than not, it's inevitable.
I know Dr. Fasha was here and he made that statement. It was literally almost livid. But you know, when they praise you, you should take it. When they criticize you, you should also take it. That is how it works. But he's saying that it's a conflict of messaging. He's even alluding to the fact that it's because Nigeria refused to raise, is it the VAT now, to 10%? That's right. Because the IMF, our revenue to GDP is not quite good. I think it's in the region of 11%. But with the tax reform, we should be able to see an upscale in that. So he said, on one hand, you're saying to us, what you're doing is widening the poverty gap, and the GDP per capita is killing the people. People are struggling. On the other hand, you're also saying that we should ramp up revenue. What exactly are you saying? But I think they are saying the same thing. Look for an ingenious way to balance both. I asked a question, and I'm going to ask, I asked a question to someone yesterday. I said, by whose reality should we measure the success of an economic reform? Is it the poor man? Let's use a minimum wage earner, or the middle class, or the rich. So the IMF is expecting revenue to be ramped up, because when there is enough revenue, borrowing is quite limited. For instance, the biggest revenue from the city of New York, their budget have been studying since, is about 35 billion, and that comes from property tax. 35 billion is the size of our national budget.
Jeffrey, are you planning to move in? Are you planning on moving to New York?
I'm just really...
the way you are studying the budget.
I'm just indirectly reminding Governor Sanwo-Olu and the Lagos State government. So when we are comparing cities in some things, I'm just telling you, look at your mates, Your Excellency, and how things are done in that area. So that we can aspire to do. So the budget for instance, environment is bigger than the entire budget of Lagos State twice. Okay, I don't want to go there. I'm saying we have a revenue problem.
At the risk of being seen to be defending the administration, according to Dr. Fasha yesterday, it's a bit too early in the day to make conclusions on these things, because the administration is working hard at reforms to expand the economy, one of which would be the tax reform law, which will be implemented next year. And as a result, of course, all of those funds will be mopped up, and revenue generation will be more impressive from that time. Hopefully, but we're going to hold the administration by that defense, of course, when that time comes, and see, not just the mopping up of those funds, but the prudence in the management of the funds as well. Yeah.
I think the ADC is the next paper, Cardi.
The Nigerian Tribune.
The Nigerian
Which leads with ADC.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay. Nigerian Tribune, my apologies. 2027, yeah, that's the new buzz right there. ADC has no preferred presidential aspirant. Mark, that's David Mark, the former Senate president. Party assembles 97 lawyers to challenge fake suits against interim leadership. 2 Ondo ex-governorship candidates, Jagade Ajayi, others join coalition. So we're seeing we saw the suit yesterday by 3 members of the ADC challenging the interim leadership. They're in their relief that they are seeking for the court to determine whether or not these people are qualified to lead the party, whether they can be in this. There are so many things. I think about 5 or 7 reliefs they saw. Well, people are saying whether or not they have the local standard to be able to institute the suit, but that will be the determination of the court. How long should you be a member of the ADC to have a leadership position? Some people are saying to the effect that the constitution of the ADC provides for waiver. They are also talking about the issue of, in fact, when they asked to maybe Kachiko, who started this issues around the leadership of Rafu Wosu, who is the chairman of your party? He said nobody, and that was quite funny to hear. But now I don't know on what premise, but the court will be able to determine all of this at the end of the day to know how far. It looks like whilst the coalition was trying to run away from issues around litigation, they stepped right into
litigation. Nature abhors vacuum, and where there must be some form of leadership. That leadership may then be in contention, which will be determined either at the court level or at the party level. But some members of the coalition are saying that, look, the Supreme Court has ruled that the leadership contentions at the party level is a strictly party affair.
Leadership and membership. Those are the words of the Supreme Court.
And should not be brought before the court. But we'll see how this plays out in the coming days. And of course, that is going to form a talking point for us today as well. But guys, we must not exit the review without looking at the top of the Nigerian Tribune, the left-hand corner. Take a look at it. U.S. issues new visa policy for Nigerians. Non-immigrant, non-diplomatic visas, now single entry, 3-month validity. Kayode.
I didn't apply, I promise you. So.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
When Kayode dropped it yesterday on the mobile chatting, I said, what does it mean? He said, stay in your home. Trump is not joking with anybody.
There's the other part I said.
Let's explain it very well. It's just a way of saying stay home.
Or go to BRICS.
Or go to BRICS. Simple as that. So no multiple entry as far as this is concerned. So single entry 3 months. That means if they give you a visa, you better gather money and find your way to the U.S. And when you leave the United States within that 3 months, please don't come back. You will apply again. You're not going to be going in and out,
Funny thing, when you check the immigration's website, just before we go to trends, you see that even for short visits for Nigeria, at least the e-visa, it's 3 months. Now, if you do immigration, you can do 3 months or extend that. So,
but you can do multiple times. Huh?
Sort of. For the e-visa, you can, in fact, 3 months you cannot even renew. For the e-visa, and when you check the immigration's website. So when they say it's reciprocal, we begin to then look at the details and see just how reciprocal it is. But that's what it is right now. As I said earlier on, I wish everyone the very best.
So BRICS is available for you. There's Brazil, there's Russia, there's China, there is India, there is South Africa, there's Iran.
So that's a look
Jeff,
at the
I recommend Iran for you.
No, I grew up in all kinds of places, so violence doesn't scare me.
There you have it. That's a look at the front pages. But let's take a look at reactions to that the visa reciprocity policy. Let's see how Nigerians are responding to it. Well, it affects several countries, including Nigeria. Non-immigrant visa validity for Nigeria to 3 months, single entry. The first response we have on this one is from Abdullah Abubakar. Abdullah Abubakar says, the new policy might pose challenges for Nigerians traveling to the U.S. Single entry visas with 3-month validity could limit flexibility, for individuals with multiple trips planned. Hope this policy gets reviewed soon to ease travel between both nations.
And Optimists, who is also Ajishebutoluwatu, says, I don't have issue with a reciprocal visa policy. It's fair to all concerned. However, can the U.S. also do refunds for visa denied? A fair point there, you know, and it's not just for the U.S. visa, for all other categories of visa as well. You know, the costs that it comes with, and more often than not, the applicants do not get the visas, and they have to apply over and over again. I imagine some Nigerians may have spent, you know, an arm and a leg to secure a visa.
All right, so before we get to our guest, Samuel Ilosho, let's just take the people's thoughts on this federal government making 16 years the official age for you to get into the university. So if you're not 16, sorry, you may have to stay at home for a while.
Although the minister also added that, that in case of exceptional brilliance, considerations may be made.
Yeah. Well, by who's going to assess that brilliance? Is there clarity to how?
I think your results will speak for you. If you're exceptional and brilliant.
A lot of these kids are smart, so they should be ready, because we've seen these kids, 14-year-old and even 12, 13-year-old doing incredible things. Jeffrey. So anyway, so Chiamaka Achilihu says, what we need is a stronger curriculum, better guidance, counseling, and more support for early entrants, not artificial age limits that discourages brilliance and waste time.
And Babatunde Johnson says, this is very good. I got into university at 15, and in hindsight, it wasn't the best thing for me personally. It disrupted my emotional development. I grew up too fast and missed out on truly experiencing my teenage years. This is quite telling about the experience of one who is a minor and got into university. And it also speaks to the emotional, mental, cognitive preparation of someone as young as 15 or 16. But clearly the debate is still ongoing. This, you know, counters the policy disposition of the former administration that sets the age at 18. But if this has been agreed upon, I guess this has a tone of finality to it.
Absolutely.
There you go. But that's not the only thing that has been agreed upon, as we said earlier on. The cutoff marks also were agreed upon for all the various tertiary institutions. Again, it was agreed upon by the heads of institutions. JAM basically did the INEC bit of it to put the vote out. They voted and they announced what the vote was, the Minister of Education at NUC as well. So take a look at what Long G has to say about this new cutoff point for universities. This user says, are we really moving forward or going backward? Says the initial cutoff mark, 180, was already just 45%, not even up to half. But now they've decided to reduce it further to 150. Like 37% says the standard is dropping. Well, we should say that this is minimum, okay? So they can't go below this. Individual institutions can choose to say, well, and that's what they've always done. They say for medicine, this is a cutoff point. For engineering, this is a cutoff point. For law, this is a cutoff point. For psychology, this is cutoff point, maybe 450.
I think you can also look at it in the reverse. The university is saying, no matter how you want to come low, don't come lower than 150.
Exactly.
And the standard of education has not changed. It is the quality that has changed. You still need 5 credits to go to university. That's where standard comes in. Quality is another thing altogether.
And the real deal.
Yeah, Mr. Soje says the 16 years minimum age for admission into tertiary institution is a welcome idea. Meanwhile, certain cutoff marks for institutions may never be feasible, as each institution may vary theirs according to the performance of candidates that choose them. That's what Kayode was trying to say. So this is the regulator or the clearinghouse saying, no matter how low you want to go, don't go below 150. Anybody who can make it 150. It's also possible you could make 150 and you don't get to school because the university will set a higher benchmark of entry. So that's as clear as crystal. Kola, you have the next one.
Which is for another talking point. From January 2026, Nigerian banks must report any account with over 5 million monthly transactions to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and this is part of the new tax
which will have changed its name.
To Nigerian Revenue Service.
Yes, indeed. Nigeria Revenue Service, NRS. Kazim Boluatife Plenty says, well, this move could boost tax compliance and help widen Nigeria's revenue base, a needed step for national development. However, without proper data protection and fair implementation, which is at the crux of it, by the way, it may scare off SMEs and informal businesses trying to scale. Trust and transparency will be key, and that's a fair point. But of course, there are other, potentially beneficial areas of the new tax law. Yeah.
It's implicit fiscalization. So the whole idea of the tax bill, which I have taken my time to extensively look at, is to the effect that it's going to help the government in terms of revenue and tracking of data. So SMEs, you are not meant, if you're doing business less than 50 million in terms of turnover, that means your sale, your revenue, not your profit. You're not necessarily supposed to charge anybody VAT, so you're not remitting VAT in that sense. And when it comes to how you're spending, in fact, the rich people are the people that are really the trouble the tax authorities have, not SMEs and small middle-class people. Those ones comply a little bit more, but the very rich and all of that. So now the way they want to fiscalize and do all of these things, even if you're trying to hide with your BVN and as long as you do electronic transaction, the tax authorities will come and tell you, in 2020, whatever, you spent 10 billion. You may come and deny, I spent only 1 billion. No, we have your records. This is how much you spend. This is how you did. They'll be able to track you and say, okay, your tax is not balancing out. And they know how to reconcile. That's why we have the ombudsman as well to do all of this.
And for the salary earners as well, yes. Those earning below 800,000
yes.
are now exempt.
Yeah. Some of us were pushing for 150, 200, but it's the first phase. I just feel that with the economy right now, 150, 200 should have been fair, but the start is about 80, 90,000, which is almost about #1 million in the whole year. Right. You're exempted from personal income tax, which is called PAYE.
Now that we're talking salaries, guys, I think now is a good time to have that big conversation around the welfare of men and women of the Nigeria Police Force. So we'll take a moment now. Don't worry, we have more trends for you. A certain APC member who had brought a snake, what happened and what has been done. We have more for you, but let's talk about some other issues. And we're starting off with welfare of Nigeria police officers, both serving and retired. We have joining us next, Mr. Amoyele Shore. Stay with us.